Shalom Akim. First, foremost, give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bashim Yahushai, Bashim Achak Midash, the honors unto the elders, Apostle Great Millstone, the elders Great Millstone, and of course, peace and blessings unto the hopeful elect. That's sincere servants of Yahweh, Bashim Yahushai, serving him in truth and sincerity. Yes, on the brother Chayaba from GMS Plain Devil's Camp. Come back with another lesson through the Spirit. Yes, so this lesson be based off of the Israelites have been scattered. And, of course, it's going through the Spirit. Our people, the real biblical Israelites have been scattered among the world. Right now, our people, of course, you'll find a lot of our people grouped up, but, we're not in the promised land right now. We're, of course, in an oppressed state. We're not going to be a state where, we're at the top. We took a plane to get back to our promised land or, whatever. Hey, ultimately what the real Israelites will be scattered abroad. Read this real quick. It says James chapter 1:1. James, a servant of the Most High and of the Lord Yahushua Mashiach, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad. Greeting, of course, the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel. Jacob had 12 sons. Jacob's name was changed to Israel. And, of course, James is writing this letter onto those who have been scattered, the Israelites who have been scattered. That's why when you read the whole entire New Testament, whenever it speaks about the Gentiles, it's going into the Israelite foreigners, scattered amongst the Gentile nations. That's when the scriptures goes. Anytime it's referring on to Gentiles, or pretty much anytime the scriptures mention Gentiles receiving salvation, it's going into the Israelite foreigners, those who have been scattered abroad. And ultimately, in these modern days, we all been scattered abroad because, of course, the majority of Israelites, pretty much all, we've all been born in another land other than Israel. Yeah, and growing up, under the pretty much the customs of the heathen. Of course, the Israelites, according to the Holy Bible, when you go into Deuteronomy chapter 28 and 16, 14 on down, you're going to, what pretty much the curses that the Lord will put upon the Israelites. So when we link up those curses today, all those curses link up to the so-called Negroes, Native Americans, Latinos. We all suffered as a people, and we all went through those curses. Not just picking out a few of those curses and claiming that you're an Israelite. No, we went through all of them. We went through all of those curses. So that's how we know we're all those people. Also, our people are the best, because as we know, it says Deuteronomy chapter 7 and 6. It says, "For thou art an holy people unto the Lord Yahweh thy power." The Lord Yahweh thy power hath chosen thee to be a special people unto himself, above all that are upon the face of the earth. Exactly. So the Lord has chosen the Israelites to be a special people unto himself. Scriptures say how we're going to be a peculiar people, meaning we're going to be, ultimately we're going to be set apart. We're going to be different from the other nations. We're going to be blessed above the other nations. That's why, again, the Israelites are at the top everything we do. Inventions, our people have invented many of the, as scriptures say, pretty much what the former things start with Jacob. Jacob is of the former things, basically paraphrasing. Because our people, it goes back to our people. When you look at these inventions, it goes back onto our people, and when you look at today, our people are the best at what they do. So obviously, sports, entertainment, of course, music, and even, you have our people, or, hey, you have a lot of people who are pretty much again talented, and our people are the best. Again, you had what Israelites, creating a plane. I believe was Brazilian, which again, obviously Brazilians are a part of the Northern Kingdom, so-called Brazilians, being of course the tribe of Asher. Inventing the car. Hey, everything if you go back further enough, hey, it goes back to our people. And then Esau stole it. Claims some guy pretty much invented it, and he put a pan on it. Some Edomite. That's what Esau does. But hey, you go into literature. Shakespeare and Mozart. Hey, these guys were Jakes. So hey, again, all goes back to our people, and Esau steal. Hey, that's why again. Well, let's go ahead and read. Yeah, that's why our people are at the top, and the other nations want to be like our people. They hate our people, but they want to be like us at the same time. Let's get Deuteronomy chapter 28 and 64. It says, "And the Lord Yahweh shall scatter thee among all people, from one end of the earth even unto the other." It says, "And there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone." See? So of course, and that, hey, that's a curse that happened out to all of us. Of course, well, we all grew up under the heathen customs, whether we were into Christianity, worshiping Jesus, the false idol, the so-called white man, or Islam, whatever religion you came up in. Hey, the point is that we were serving other gods, and that was a curse. But now, of course, the Lord has, what ultimately blessed us to receive the truth. Been graceful unto us to receive this truth, and to repent back onto Him. And what, through the bloody Yahushai, we have ultimately that opportunity. Because what, ultimately the Lord died for the nation of Israel, first and foremost, for the elect, because only the elect will receive salvation on this side. But ultimately, that's what you ought to be a part of. But hey, you don't see hey, what the scriptures say, how we're going to be risen up to teach His word, and all those around us will fear, basically paraphrasing in the book of Revelation. So, when you see our people, when you see prophets out there really actually prophesying the 100% truth and doing it how it's supposed to be doing it, not locked up in a church, not going out there in the highways and byways, constantly uploading these lessons on YouTube. Hey, the Lord has it where, you got videos coming out. And you got many videos coming out in just one day. You can't even watch, all the videos, and that's how much is coming out. And you only see Israelite, or what, so-called blacks, Native Americans, and Latinos doing that. You don't see Esau out there in the highways and byways, and again, and what actually teaching how the Lord said to teach. If you do see a random Edomite out there, or the heathen or whatever, ultimately only Israelites are going to do that, and more specifically the ones who the Lord has chosen to do that, of the nation of Israel. And if you do see a brother who looks like he has appearance of a heathen or whatever, hey, ultimately if he's out there preaching the word of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai and doing this work, then hey, that's an Israelite, because no heathen has that capability of serving Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Only really an Israelite has that capability to do so. Yes, so the point is that we've been scattered. So you're going to have our people coming, with the appearance, or looking like the other nations, looking like the heathen. Because again, it only takes 3 generations to, it only takes 3 generations to look like pretty much the heathen nation. If you're grandfather, or yeah, pretty much, if your grandfather had a, let's say, Edomite, so-called white woman, what ultimately your father will take some of the, appearance and complexion of, the mother, and then, if the father has a Edomite woman, then obviously what you're gonna look like, more like an Edomite, pretty much, very, very close. And then, hey, if you have one with the Edomite, then obviously your son's gonna 100% look like an Edomite. But hey, again, what sets Israel apart is the spirit. We have the spirit of Israelites. That's what sets us apart. That doesn't matter how we look. Ultimately, the spirit, doesn't matter how the outward looks like. The skin complexion. Ultimately, if you have the spirit of an Israelite, then that means you are an Israelite. And again, that's not having the spirit of an Israelite is only given on to those whose seed goes back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So yeah, let's go ahead and get real quick. And of course, we don't have the documents to prove whether or not we go back on to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, but it's through faith. And ultimately, hey, the spirit is going to manifest, man. All things, will become manifest. So ultimately, if we are an Israelite, it's going to come out. If you're an Israelite, it's going to come out. Because, hey, you're going to, especially if you're an elect Israelite, then you're going to be doing what the Lord said to do. And ultimately, that's what you hope to be a part of. We're called. But we don't know if we're chosen. But as scriptures say, we make a calling election sure. By doing what Yahweh B'Shem Yashai said to do. By diligently serving the Lord and doing what he said to do. That's what the elect are going to do. So, of course, that's how we make our calling and election sure. And having faith in him. It says, Matthew chapter 10:5, it says, these 12 Yahushua sent forth and commanded them, saying, go not into the way of the Gentiles, into any city of the Samaritans, enter ye not. Yes, so the disciples, Yahushua sent forth the disciples, the 12. It says, go not into the way of the Gentiles, and go not. Or let's read again, Matthew chapter 10:5. It says, these 12 Yahushua sent forth and commanded them, saying, go not into the way of the Gentiles, and into any city of the Samaritans enter ye not. It says, but it says, Matthew chapter 10:6, but go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. See? Yeah, so ultimately the 12, they didn't go. Ultimately, the 12 didn't go into, to preach onto the Gentiles. No, ultimately they went to preach onto those who have been lost. And of course, we know through the Hellenization, the Greek Hellenization period, are people lost, lost as commandments and pretty much serving the Lord. So they were lost into the heathenistic customs, into the heathen customs. So the 12 were sent out to go, pretty much it says go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. It says verse 7, and as ye go, preach saying, the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Yeah, the kingdom of heaven is meant for the Israelites to be on top. It's not going to be a unification of all nations. No, it's going to be what? It's going to be, ultimately, again, it's going to be kingdom for the Israelites, and the heathen will be our servants. That's ultimately Jacob, that's ultimately, one of the blessings of Jacob, that he will be given pretty much all heathen will be subject under. It says, Matthew chapter 10:8, heal the sick, cleanse the lepers, raise the dead, cast out devils. Freely ye have received, freely give. Yeah, that's the point. So and when you read, let's go ahead and get Romans chapter 9:4. says Romans chapter 9-3. And yeah, this is Apostle Paul speaking. It says, "For I could wish that myself were accursed from Mashiach for my brethren, my kinsmen according to the flesh." Verse 4, "Who are Israelites, to whom pertaineth the adoption, and the glory, and the covenants, and the giving of the law, and the service of the Most High, and the promises." Yeah. So right here, Paul's explicitly stating, again, what his kinsmen, it says, who are Israelites, and to whom pertains what the Lord has promised. The Lord didn't promise make the promises he gave unto Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob unto the heathen. He only gave unto his people. Romans chapter 9-4 says, "Who are Israelites, to whom pertaineth the adoption, and the glory, and the covenants, and the giving of the law, and the service of the Most High, and the promises." Yeah, so this ministry, that's why, you only see our people within this ministry. You don't see no Edomites and no heathen in our ministry. And again, if you have brothers who look like, they have a heathen, or they look like heathen, they're lighter on the skin complexion or whatever, maybe facial structure or just whatever, the phenotype. Ultimately, again, what we know by the Spirit. You're gonna have brothers come up looking like the heathen, coming to the truth. But again, we know by the Spirit. Ultimately, if you believe on Yahweh B'Shem Yashai, 100% truth and sincerity, and you're doing this work, you're doing His will, then again, you are an Israelite. Because what it says, "and the service of the Most High." It says, let me read again, Romans chapter 9-4. "Who are Israelites, to whom pertaineth the adoption, and the glory, and the covenants." Yeah, ultimately, coming back onto Yahweh B'Shem Yashai. It says, "and the glory, and the covenants, and the giving of the law." Yeah, and the Israelites only have been given the law, not the rest of the nations. So Israelites are, pretty much what's the word? Pretty much what an Israelite will naturally, pretty much what Israelites have a conscience. Jake knows when they're going off, but obviously you got a lot of our wicked people. They know they're going off, but they're indulged with the wickedness. When it comes to heathen, they're 100% into serving their idols. And Jake and of course our people are zealous, and but ultimately ultimately again our people have a conscience. But only the elect will come back onto this truth and believe on Yahweh B'Shem Yashai, 100% truth and sincerity, and do His will. It says, yeah, and they're giving the law and the service of the Most High and the promises. Yeah, the service of the Most High, serving the Lord. Only an Israelite is given that capability. The heathen, they're hardwired to serve their own idols and their own gods. They're hardwired to serve wood and stone. False idols, false gods. That's what they're hardwired to do. But the Israelite has the capability of serving the Most High. Serving with the Most High and His Son. It says, yeah, in the promises. Verse 5, it says, "Who are the fathers, and of whom, as concerning the flesh, Mashiach came." So yeah, Romans chapter 9-5, it says, "Who are the fathers, and of whom, as concerning the flesh, Mashiach came, who was over all, Most High, blessed forever. Amen." So there you have it. So the Lord only came for the Israelites, for His people. Matthew chapter 1-21, the Lord only came for His people. The Lord ultimately died for His people only. He didn't die for all the heathen. He only died for His people. And the Lord's only coming back for His people. When He comes back to make a deliverance, He's only coming back to deliver Israelites, more specifically the elect of the nation of Israel. The Lord will not save one heathen. The Lord will only save Israelites. So yeah, I believe the point. Lord's will you brothers that edified. Yahweh B'Shem Yahshai, B'Shem Kakodash Pakatham. Shalom.